just want to say, we're going to miss Deidre. She's been a great colleague. You'll recognize this. I'm going to read just 3 excerpts from a short story, so it's a little disjointed. One thing I've tried to do in my work is to go into deep philosophical issues. And this particular story, I mean, I went from Heidegger, a great German philosopher, to actually into quantum physics, because I'm really just fascinated with the mystery of Freebird. I had a friend who had to play Freebird at a bar every hour. That was part of the contract. And called Waiting for the End of the World. So it's somewhere between Saturday night and Sunday morning clockwise, and I'm in a cinder block roadhouse called The Last Chance, and I'm playing Freebird for the 5th time tonight, but I'm not thinking of Ronnie Van Zant, but an artist dredged up from my former life, Willie Yates. And the line, surely some revelation is at hand. But the only rough beast slouching toward me is my rhythm guitar player, Sammy Griffin, who's down on all fours, weaving through the crowd of tables between the bathroom and stage. One of the great sins of the 60s was introducing drugs to the good old boy element of Southern society. If you were some Harvard psychology professor like Timothy Leary, drugs might well expand your consciousness, but they work just the opposite way for people like Sammy, shriveling the brain to a reptilian level of aggression and paranoia. There's no telling what Sammy has snorted or swallowed in the bathroom, but his pupils have expanded to the size of dimes. He passes the table and sees a bare leg, a female leg, and grabs hold. He takes off an attached high heel and starts licking the foot. It takes about 3 seconds for a bigger foot with a steel-capped toe to swing into the back of Sammy's head like a football player kicking an extra point. Sammy curls up in a fetal position and blacks out among the peanut shells and cigarette butts. So now it's just my bass player, Bobo Lingefeld, How Deep, my drummer, and me. I finished Freebird, so that means the next songs are my choice. They got to have Freebird at least once an hour, Rodney said when he hired me, saying it like his clientele were diabetics needing insulin. The rest of the time, you play what you want, Daddy. I turned to Bobo and Hal and played the opening chords of Gary Stewart's Roaring, and they fall in. Stewart was one of the country's neglected geniuses, once dubbed Honky Tonk's white trash ambassador from hell by one of the few critics who bothered listening to him. His music's 2 centuries worth of pent-up Appalachian soul, too intense and pure for Nashville, though they tried their best to pith his brain with cocaine, put a cowboy hat on his head, and make him sound like another talentless Music City hack like Dirk Bentley. I just added that. I'm a big fan of that. Stewart sent something to spend his last years hunkered down in a North Florida trailer park, no phone, not answering the door, every window of a hulk of rusting tin he called home painted black, surviving on what songwriting residuals dribbled in from Nashville. Such a lifestyle has its appeals, especially tonight as I look out at the human wreckage feeling the last chance. One guy has his head on the table, eyes closed, vomit drooling from his mouth. Another pulls out his false teeth and clamps him on the ear of a gal at the next table. An immense woman in a purple jumpsuit is crying while another woman screams at her. And what I'm thinking is maybe it's time to halt all human reproduction. Let God or evolution or whatever put us here in the first place start again from scratch, because this ain't working. Beyond the tables of human wreckage, I see Hubert McLean sitting at a bar, beer in one hand and Louisville Slugger in the other. Hubert's our bouncer, 250 pounds of atavistic Celtic violence coiled and ready to happen. On the front of the ball cap covering his survivalist buzz cut, a leering skeleton wears a sickle in one hand, or waves a sickle in one hand, a black and white checkered victory flag in the other. The symbolism is unclear. On the opposite side of the bar, Rodney's taking whatever people hand him, crumpled bills, handfuls of nickels and dimes, payroll checks, wedding rings, wristwatches. One time a guy offered a gold filling he dug out of his mouth with a pocket knife. Rodney didn't even blink. Watching him operate, it's easy to believe Rodney's simply an updated version of Flem Snopes, the kind of guy whose first successful business venture is showing photos of his naked sister to his junior high peers. But But that's not the case at all. Rodney graduated from the University of South Carolina with a degree in social work. He wanted to make the world better, but according to Rodney, the world wasn't interested. His career as a social worker ended the same week it began. Rodney borrowed a church bus to take some of Columbia's disadvantaged youth to an Atlanta Braves baseball game. Halfway to Atlanta, the teenagers mutinied. They beat Rodney with a tire iron, took his money and clothes, and left him naked and bleeding in a ditch. A week later, the same day Rodney got out of the hospital, the bus was found half submerged in Okefenokee Swamp. It took another month to round up the youths, several of whom had procured entry-level positions in a Miami drug cartel. Rodney says running the last chance is a philosophical statement. Above the cash register, he's plastered one of those Darwinian bumper stickers with the fish outline and 4 evolving legs. Rodney's drawn a speech bubble in front of the fish's mouth. Exterminate the brutes, the fish. Advice Rodney has taken to heart. There's only one mixed drink in the last chance, what Rodney calls the Terminator. It's 6 ounces of Jack Daniels, 6 ounces of Surrey County Moonshine, 6 ounces of Sam's Choice tomato juice. Some customers claim a dash of lighter fluid is added for good measure. No one, not even Hubert, has ever drunk more than 3 of these and remained standing. It usually takes only 2 to put the drinkers onto the floor, tomato juice dribbling down their chins like they've just been shot in the mouth, et cetera, et cetera.